So hi everyone, obviously from the title you can see this is about the teeth filling. So this is actually about my own sort of teeth fillings. This is actually a request by Mariajardar, which I'll put across here if I'm pronouncing that wrong. So thanks Maria for requesting this, and also your patience. I know you sort of were following me up on where I was at with that one, and I know I kept sort of putting it off, hoping to try and get to the dentist before I actually did, so I'd have some more relevant sort of up-to-date sort of information on the sort of fillings, and if I had any other work or information to sort of pass on. But I mean that's coming up, and hopefully I can edit in at the end or just do a separate post on that information, because I thought I'd better just try and get this one sort of recorded and sort of ready to do. And again, thanks for everyone that have been patient about a lot of the requests and views that I am a little bit behind on. Again, I've put everything on my channel page under my profile. You can see what's been requested and who's requested that. So I'm working my way through those ones. So just to quickly start off with my teeth, I don't have a whole lot of sort of fillings, and I've been really lucky not to have any sort of cosmetic work sort of done on my sort of front teeth, or what I call my smile teeth. So lucky that way, but I have had a few fillings and a few different types of fillings, so I can sort of go through the sort of different types and what I sort of remember from the procedures, just sort of information. I mean, I haven't had, as I said, any sort of work on the front teeth. I haven't had any sort of braces. Just for those people that might be interested in sort of hearing about braces or something, Brains Are Beauty, and I'll put a link down to her channel. I mean, she does a beauty channel, she does a different variety of things, but she has done sort of her journey with braces, or having to do braces again, so that was actually really interesting. Just quickly, sort of stuff I use with my teeth at the moment. I do use an electric sort of toothbrush, is the one that charges. This is the Braun Oral-B one. I just need to replace that head, that's a bit old. I also alternate between a soft toothbrush, which I think is just a Colgate one as well. And I do floss, like the actual dental floss, every few days, but I actually alternate with that and the little, forget the name, the little bristles that you can do in between the teeth that sort of massage your gums. And the mouthwash I'm currently using is the Colgate Savacol. I quite like this one. It's the mint. Tastes awful, but I actually find it sort of feels a little bit better on my teeth. Leaves my teeth feeling a little bit. Was using Listerine for quite a while there, but read a few good reviews about that one, so that's sort of what I'm currently using until I obviously go back to the dentist, and they might give me some other ones to sort of try or recommend, so hopefully I might post it in later on. But to the teeth fillings, so probably my earliest or sort of oldest sort of filling I remember is the old Amalgam, I think they're called, which is basically sort of silver metal fillings. A lot of people might sort of remember those as the mercury fillings. I mean, they sort of still around, the mercury, but they're more of an alloy or a mixture of metals. Like you've got the mercury, you've got tin, you've got silver, and probably a few other sort of ones in there as well. As far as I know, mine did have the sort of mercury maybe many years ago, most that I had replaced, but I know a lot of people probably read or have heard about maybe small amounts of mercury leaking into the system. It's a little bit of a debate on that one as well, and again you can sort of look that up at your own leisure as well, but they are basically unsightly over time. I mean, you can't not notice them on the tooth, even though people's teeth aren't obviously white, they're more off-white, grey white, yellow white, etc., but they are like a silver colour against the teeth, really stark. And also if you have ones that sort of go right across the tooth, very noticeable, not very aesthetic. They are probably the cheapest filling that you can get, so probably more economical, but definitely not aesthetic. But I was really lucky, because the only ones I've sort of had are either been at the top here, which I've had sort of replace the top back molar teeth, and the only sort of two amalgam ones that I have, and I don't even know if they do actually still contain mercury, two bottom ones here, and then they're my bottom lower jaw, and you cannot even see them. Like, you can't see them when I'm talking. Even if I sort of yawn, I'd actually have to open my mouth up to the extreme level where you'd actually see it. Even when I was trying to take a photo of it, which thankfully I haven't put up, that was just awful. You couldn't really sort of see it, but again I can see it if I really open my mouth up. It is really stark against the tooth, but like I said, it's not very noticeable. If you do have it at your sort of front teeth, definitely going to sort of notice it as you're talking or smiling. Probably not something you'd want to have around your sort of front part there. There are other types which I'll go through now, but they're a little bit more expensive. Another type that I have is the composite resin, and basically the best advantage to those ones is that they can be colour matched to your tooth. So obviously not just white, they're actually colour matched to your tooth colour. A little bit more stronger. I haven't sort of read or heard about any sort of health issues with those ones. Again, over time they can sort of crumble or basically absorb moisture and sort of swell on the tooth. But I've had them at my top my top left and my sort of bottom left. I've got two composite ones in there, the resin, and basically it's a procedure of sort of bonding that to the actual tooth. I think it was about 2 or 3 times more expensive than the amalgam ones that I had, and at the time I didn't have insurance, so it was quite pricey, but it's also because it's quite a lengthy sort of procedure in comparison to the amalgam ones. From what I remember, it was basically they sort of roughened up the tooth a little bit, then they put on the like a layer, which is basically what's going to bond that to the actual resin, or the plastic dental resin. And what they do with that, they sort of build up the layers. So they'll put down a layer, then they'll put a bright light on it to sort of fix it or harden it in place. Then they'll put another layer on and do the same thing with the light until they're basically happy with the actual sort of height and how it's sitting on the tooth. Then I remember some sort of paper or something that they were making me bite down on to sort of get the pattern or fit it to the tooth properly, and then they sort of set it in place. So it is a fairly lengthy process in comparison to the old sort of amalgam or metal sort of fillings. But again, the end result's definitely very, very pleasing. Couldn't really notice it over time. Have sort of changed a little bit colour again. When I go back to the dentist, I'll have a look at that and see how that's sort of going. Maybe I need that replaced or etc. But definitely a lot more better. But again, there's the sort of price, but they do seem to be stronger, better looking on the teeth. And the last one I've actually had is it's like a porcelain one. It was my bottom right, sort of behind my bottom canine tooth, and it's sort of the closest one that I have to the front, so it's obviously quite a noticeable tooth when I'm talking or smiling, etc. So that one, porcelain, which is I think it was called an overlay. It's basically where it was more work than a filling, but not so much as something like a crown. Something like a crown is sort of replacing that top layer for maybe someone that's having like a root canal or something. But basically with the overlay, it's where it sort of goes in, the filling goes in the crevices, the tooth, and also overlaps the natural jagged pieces in the actual tooth. So it actually goes down and around sort of that. And the porcelain it's the most strongest sort of filling that you can get, and also the most expensive, definitely most expensive, but it also was the most indistinguishable. I must admit, when I first had it sort of done and sort of looked at it, you couldn't really tell at all. It actually almost looked better than the natural tooth, but it was quite a little bit of work. But it's basically like a resin that they'll cement to the actual tooth. And I believe another type that you can get is an inlay, which sort of just goes in the actual crevices of the tooth rather than over the actual jagged pieces as well. But I had to have the overlay. But I was warned it was so hard that it might wear away my top tooth over time. So again, that's something I'll get checked out when I go back. But that one I was probably the most happy with. If I do have to have any of the other ones to replace, or do I have to have work, obviously, in the front ones, I'll definitely get that one again, even with the expense. I do have insurance now, and obviously looked in if I'm covered with that, but that's probably something I will go for more as an aesthetic sort of thing. I keep my teeth sort of looking the best they can, or keep them as healthy as I can as well. Maybe not my usual sort of post. I do have some people found that interesting, or even just Maria, if that sort of helped. I mean, again, I can't really show you sort of anything like that, but a lot of stuff you can sort of Google. But definitely the amalgam old silver ones do sort of darken over time. I remember the old ones that I had when I was younger sort of went from a silvery colour, likened over time, and if that's something that you can maybe, it's probably more economical for you. But again, if you've got insurance and that, you might be able to get quite a bit of that work done through your insurance. And thanks again for watching. Take care.